Says live, Nori. Welcome back, everybody, to Hod My Jacket. Sorry that I wasn't around last week. Apologies to Nori as well for letting everybody down. Just my work week got totally crazy, and I just couldn't change some of my appointments. So apologies for that. Here we are on the
Here we are.
14th of November, and there is one big story, Nori, I think, is dominating everybody's chat on the internet at the moment, and that
Yeah.
is what has been happening between Liberation Scotland, SALVO, and their former legal representative at the UN, Mr. Azizov.
hmm
So, what's been happening, Nori? Do we have a timeline for the events that have occurred in the last week?
Well, Gordon, it seemed to be going all well and cosy. There was SSRG, the Scottish Sovereignty meeting, I think that's what it's called. That was in October, and they were all getting up to the microphone. They were all giving speeches, and they were all laughing with each other. It was a very pally occasion. And then for the last few weeks, Sarah Salyers, Craig Murray, Liberation.Scot have been putting nothing up. And it was on one occasion when Sarah was putting some stuff up about Gaza and that I put above, I'm more interested in the situation. Where are we? And of course, I got a reply, and then stuff started eking out, oozing out about this Justice Pour Tout International. This is the NGO that they're working with. It's all their fault. It's all their fault that things have gone haywire. And at that point, I thought, wait a minute, there's something not right here. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you were all jollying together, and all of a sudden, there's a big bad wolf you're going to blame for something that's not happened, or some people that are in the organisation. What is happening, Gordon? It doesn't make sense, and we're asking questions. That's all. We're just asking questions.
I, like you, Nori, I've been a bit baffled by this development, and I've tried to follow as many different threads as possible. And one of the things I looked at, first of all, was Mr. Azizov's comments or his reply to whatever it was that had happened. And
Yeah.
he, according to his statement, had claimed that the organisation, Liberation Scotland, needed to tighten up its discipline. I think there was an implication that somebody within the organisation had made criticisms about him personally. I don't know what the nature of them were or was, but that seemed to be where it began.
It does. But then you think, why would you get rid of people who have done good work thus far? Because on a tweet on X, somebody says, they've taken us to the UN, they've shown us the UN's formats, they've got us into different people, they've got us into the language, have provided representation based on knowledge of UN language and procedures and a human rights background. That's what the NGO brought to the table.
Yeah.
Now, Gordon, if you were to ask me a year ago, this is where we might be a year ahead, I'd have thought, that sounds amazing. These guys know what they're talking about. This is where we want to be. And what the problem I've got is when Salvo and Liberation, I wish we would just merge together and be called one thing. You know that? Because it drives me mad. If they want to take the emotions of the Scottish people and rip them apart, that's what they're doing. If they want to take Scotland further, and believe you me, Gordon, I honestly think that Scotland is a colonised country. There's no getting away from that. Alf Baird has convinced me, and history has told me this is the case. I've watched UN reports on different countries going to the UN to declare their colonisation process, and it's the same rhetoric they're speaking as we're saying now. So I have no question that Scotland has a case to take to the UN. All I want to know is what has happened. Yeah. Who is now in this? Well, I'm just going to call them Salvo, and that'll cover Liberation. Who in Salvo has putting out these messages? Remember, the first one that came out, Gordon, that got you and I thinking. They said that they were not party affiliated, yet they've sent out a tweet congratulating the SNP, who, as far as I can remember, are a political party, and their involvement with Gordon McIntyre Kemp. and they put this out. When some of us challenged that, they said, "Oh, that was a mistake. That shouldn't have been put out. That was wrong." You can do it once, Scott. Do it once, right? But at that point, me and you and this show were arguing, why couldn't they put something out on their website? Why couldn't they put out transparency to the people who are, contributing to their cause? It just doesn't make sense. We let it go. But now this has come up. And because the last occasion is still fresh in our memory, we're going, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is happening? The JPTI are a legally bound, solidified NGO. They've been used by other people in other areas. They came in with their professionalism. And when I looked at their reply, it looks very well constructed, Gordon. It's very, very direct. It tells you what's happened.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound to me like troublemakers.
No, I think what seems to be we have to remember that JPTI, a non-government organization, they are essentially providing international legal services to an entire country, which wants to be represented at the UN and wants to put a case at the UN. And that is the service they provided. Very successful. I think everybody would agree. And then having done that, suddenly somebody somewhere, and I'm not saying it came from Liberation Scotland because it might not have, but somebody purporting to be from Liberation Scotland has said something to this gentleman, Mr. Azizov, the representative from JPTI, criticising him in some vague way. The only messages I've discovered which are anything to do with this seem to be making claims that off camera, in private appearances, he was saying something different from the message that provided at the UN. Now, I can't imagine that a professional of his status would ever do that. No. Because he's bound as a legal representative to represent the interest of his clients. He would never be seen privately or anywhere else making any such comments, I don't believe. Yeah. That allegation is, and that's what seems to have sparked off this huge row. So,
it seems like as well, Gordon, that Liberation, or Salvo, we'll just call them that, they've become very defeatist. Anyone that dares question what's been happening is absolutely pillared on X or Facebook. You're getting hammered for asking questions. And, better to get to lance the boil now rather than wait down the line where we're supposed to be going to the UN. But how do we do that if we don't have professional help? Because the last time I heard, Sarah Salyers is a granny from Fife. She calls herself that. Alf is an academic. He'll go and speak to a committee if he's invited, but you've got to wait for the invite. So that leaves Craig Murray. Who is this guy? And, the other thing we spoke about, Gordon, if you're talking about timelines, this guy left Alba to join the Your Party and saying that there was more of a chance to convince people in that party. Alf must have been scratching his hair out because in his book he says colonisation, you don't fraternise with the colonisers because you get soaked up. It's like what the SNP have done and what's happened to them. Going to Westminster, they just get caught up in the system. And you can't get out of that spider's web. You don't go there. You do it from afar. And you do it with the people. If you're wanting to get the people with you, Gordon, the question we were asking, and rightly so, why didn't he join Liberate Scotland, who back all of Salvo's work, are in Scotland, could have done with a high-profile guy, But
My own take on Craig Murray's departure from Alba to Your Party, Corbyn's new entity, I think, Craig Murray's got some form in the past for jumping between parties, mostly because he wanted to be put forward as a candidate for election. He's already said that Alba would not put him up as a candidate for election because he had a prison record, right?
Yes.
And therefore he was going to go to Corbyn's party. Now, Corbyn's party surely would be bound by the same rule. So that doesn't really make any sense. He's not going to get elected if he joins Corbyn's party either. So what's his reason for going there? It can't be to get elected because he's already discovered that he can't be. So why is he going there? Now the story I heard, and this partly came from Craig, partly from people who know him, was that he wanted to persuade Corbyn to take a pro-independence stance in his party. Now, that may or may not be true, but there's not any evidence to show that that's happening at all at the moment. There's not been any progress towards that, and it just seems to have disappeared into a black hole, that particular idea. Nothing has happened. I had heard from a Scottish former Labour official that he had made representations, not not Craig Murray, but he had made representations to Scottish Labour to take a pro-independence stance because many of the members were in favour. And he was rebuffed because the group that he wanted to talk to, which was Corbyn's little circle, had been replaced. When Corbyn's new party formed, a new cabal formed around him, which was resistant to independence. Doesn't wash either. So none of these things seem to make any apparent sense.
No, the thing about Corbyn, he says that this is a socialist party. Craig Murray's on record to saying, "I'm to the left, but I'm not a socialist." He said that. He's quoted that. So it just makes sense. The only thing I can think of, Gordon, he might not want to be, or he can't be elected, but he can certainly be in the background devising policy.
Craig brought a lot of experience when he initially arrived at the UN on our behalf because he was used to dealing with those people. He had good contacts, and that really helped the cause. But now he abandoned and disappeared off to London to see Jeremy Corbyn.
No, Gordon, I don't think he's. What experience has he got? What do we know he's got? He's good with language. If he was a really good player and he knew, in modern terms, diplomacy is about communication, you would have taken a camera crew with you to Geneva, and you would have seen Craig Murray shaking the hands of these African leaders who were all for Scottish decolonisation. There was nothing. And that is what you need to give to the people. You've got to feed them bits here and there now and again to prove that you're on the road. You cannot do it in secret. And don't tell me, oh, there's a memorandum of conduct that they have broken or we have broken. No, Scottish people need to.
Losing your sound there, Norrie, for a moment. Norrie, your sound's dropped out. I'm sorry, folks. We seem to have lost Norrie's feed. I don't know if anyone else is hearing this. I can't hear you, Norrie, I'm afraid, right at the moment. Norrie, I'm having trouble with your sound. I'm not hearing you at all. Can you hear me?
You muted. You're back on.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
about there just for a minute.
I'll just repeat if you didn't hear it. Anyone who thought liberation was a matter of polite debate and fairness had better wake up. What kind of diplomacy is that?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is that no matter what we now think or say about this matter, we still don't know what this stramash is about between Liberation Salvo and Mr. Azizov. We don't know what was said. We don't know who said it. And to my mind, the fact that it's not been attributed to anybody, nobody's owned up to making these comments, strikes me as being extremely suspicious. That it's perfectly possible that somebody spoofed the Liberation account and sent a message purporting to be from them to JPTI and said these things. But nobody in Salvo, nobody in Liberation Scotland has come forward and said it wasn't us, and we don't know who it was. And that puzzles me. who was it? Who said these things and why? Because it seems to me like it's just taken a wrecking ball to the entire relationship.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
we
it does, Gordon, and particularly when you think, because if this is true, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it reads well. On this October 2025, so we're not talking last month, everyone was great. JTPI prepared and shared with Liberation Scotland and Salvo Scott Limited its draft statement for delivery before the fourth committee of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, right? We're only talking last month. Under the agenda item concerning French Polynesia. Now, the argument is that you're going down a devolution route here and we're rotten independence. This is the argument that's coming out from Liberation. Gordon, you only wanting to get your country recognised as being colonised. It's back to the people that get you independence.
that's
This
what
is
was yeah.
this makes sense.
This was the comment which sparked this furor in the first place. Somebody has said that because French Polynesia is the French have proposed to give them limited devolution, devolved powers, in an effort to prevent them from reaching that status as a colony, so they can't be decolonized. In other words, devolution would be a way of preventing it. And this has come out now. Apparently, had been attributed to Mr. Azizov having said this. I don't think he said this at all. I think the French said this. I don't think he said it.
Yeah.
It's now accused him of saying it, and he's angry with Liberation Scotland because he claims that this comment came from them. So somebody somewhere is either incredibly stupid and has not picked up on this correctly and has made an erroneous allegation, or this is somebody stirring it, somebody from outside stirring it.
Yeah, because this draft statement for the UN under the agenda item concerning French Polynesia, it's a precedent.
Yes,
and he's acting on a precedent that you can follow the steps of this movement, this country, to the UN and see what they've done. Now, Scotland's a devolved country as well, right? And we're getting the shackles put on us because we're a devolved country, just like all the others on this list of UN countries wanting to be decolonised. So if you take a template, I would have thought, Gordon, that that's good practice. You look at something else and you copy it as much as you can to make a bespoke system for Scotland and the Scottish people. If that's what they're doing, JPTI tick the box for me.
Yeah, because their job was to show Scotland and the Scottish people how it can be done at the United Nations. And they did their job perfectly well. And everybody was happy until now. And until this ridiculous comment came out and was attributed to this gentleman, he claims nothing to do with him. Doesn't know, making allegations against him. So somebody's putting the mix in here. It's relatively easy to drive a wedge between people who are already very hyper suspicious of anything. It's very easy when people are so paranoid to drive wedges between them. I think that's what this actually is. That's what it looks like.
There is an important part of this message from JPTI, and I'm scrolling down. However, this is JPTI, and this is what we all know, and it's good that JPTI understand this and realise this, I would have thought. The ultimate decision between autonomy and independence must belong exclusively to the people of Scotland, not to the self-appointed civil society actors such as Liberation Scotland or Salvo Scott Limited. The absurdity of the present situation lies in their denial of political reality, that no member state of the United Nations will support the decolonisation of Scotland unless credible evidence is presented that these groups genuinely represent the will of the Scottish people. Here's the thing.
That's basically him pointing out that he doesn't believe, or JPTI don't believe, that Salvo Liberation Scotland do represent the majority of the people in Scotland.
Well,
I mean, the organisations were set up to represent us. There's no question about that. but there's a question over whether they have enough support for this to go forward to the UN.
Mhm.
That's
The thing,
the problem.
well, yeah, that's a very good. The point is this, Gordon, and I'll agree with you here, that from now on, without JPTI, how are we going to manage dealing with the UN without professional help? Are we
Well,
going to rely on Craig Murray, that failed politician who's jumping ship left, right, and centre, who
no, I
who
don't think so.
actually said, Gordon, who actually said this is a storm in a teacup. And Sarah Salyers backed him up and says, you'll notice our ambassador, Craig Murray, is unconcerned about this. My goodness.
Well, he's probably unconcerned because he's in London talking to Jeremy Corbyn at the moment. But that
It
aside,
doesn't matter. He reads tweets and he can read, he'll go online on his phone.
well, there's one thing that hasn't changed, and in this respect, I agree with Sarah, and that is that the groundwork which JPTI was employed to provide has been done, and the initial approach to the UN was made. The intention, to submit these documents has been made. The problem now is that somebody, probably Salvo Liberation Scotland, have actually got to prepare these documents and present them on their own without JPTI. And what I've read from Sarah's responses are that will be happening anyway. That they intend to continue with that and present them, but there's not any real detail yet on how that will be done.
Well, do you know, whatever happens, Gordon, looking to the future on all this, this has left a bad taste in the mouth about who is actually operating within Liberation Salvo, whatever you want to call them. And if we have to move on, we have to see what actors are at play here. We need more transparency from these people, because if they're going to come out and crowdfund and take our money and take it to the UN, I would, Gordon, it's all very well going on jollies and going into radio stations in New York and telling Scotland stories. But people have been doing that for ages. You want to do the hard graft. You want to get into that UN. You want to be pressing the flesh. You want to be taking Scotland's case to the people who matter, not to radio stations and not to Geneva, to people we don't even know were there because you haven't filmed it. Craig Murray, take your bags and get lost. Alan McMahon, get out. Leave this to Sarah and Al, for goodness sake, because before it seemed to be okay. Right now, it's a mess. And new actors have come in because they've seen something growing here and they want a piece of action. Get rid, get back to the basics, trust the people you take on board and move forward. And don't start blaming others for your ills.
One of the biggest problems, and I've seen this for 40 odd years, is any amateur group, any volunteer group that forms for any purpose at all will eventually splinter apart as new members join and want to take power. They want the big jobs, and when they do that, things fall apart because the original people who formed the group, who had the clarity of vision to make things happen, are basically just sidelined by, as you say, these new guys who've come in and started to take over the organisations. Now, to me, Salvo and Liberation Scotland are, as you pointed out right at the beginning of the programme, difficult to distinguish from each other. Why are they not just one organisation? Why two? That's something that confuses people straight away. Plus, there's another group online called Liberation.Scot. There are all sorts of similar sounding groups and organisations and no coordination. There's no
That's the thing.
synchronization.
Yeah, that's a very good point as well, Gordon, because we're getting confused, aren't we? Is this deliberate? Is this being manufactured so that we don't differentiate between Liberate Scotland, the political party, or not a party, but it's a group,
Yep.
and then Liberation.Scot? Why can't Liberation.Scot just drop that title, go to Salvo? Because here's the thing, Gordon, if you've got two websites, that costs two domains, that costs two maintenance on websites. Have
Yep.
one and call it Salvo, so you can be directly away from Liberation.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely.
But that's got to happen toot sweet, because we're going to get confused. Can I just go back, Gordon, because you asked for a timeline earlier. this is back from a GPTI report, the Scottish participation at the United Nations Fourth Committee, October 2025. Now, this was when GPTI successfully facilitated the participation of Scottish civil society representatives at the UN's Fourth Committee, Special Political and Decolonisation Committee, UN, from the 5th to the 13th of October. As part of that initiative, JPTI organised and led a delegation composed of Craig Murray and Professor Alfred J. Baird, representing Liberation Scotland and SALVO in partnership with International Pro Bono Legal Services Association. So there you are. Who are the players that were there in October and now by November are saying it's all rubbish? And how can you be working hand in hand with these people and a month later saying, oh, they're rubbish, they're cheats, they're liars, they're dirty? It doesn't make sense, Gordon.
Yeah, there's definitely a gigantic rat that I think we can all smell here. Either it's stupidity and bad coordination, or it's some kind of conspiracy. There's some kind of a bad actor working within somewhere in Scotland who's either spoofing their account or making representations that seem to be coming from them. Either way, it's damaging the cause. Doesn't matter how it's done. It doesn't matter whether it's deliberate or whether it's stupid. You know, sometimes stupidity is the most obvious answer.
Yes. But if we look, Gordon, to the future, then where is SALVO Liberation going? How are they going to manoeuvre Scotland into the UN? Do they have to now go to another NGO? And will that NGO say, "Wait a minute, the way you treated the JPTI, we're not wanting to work with you," because JPTI have said this: we will work with any other organisation in Scotland apart from Liberation.Scot and Salvo.Scot. They will work with anyone else. So is it maybe now time to get a splinter group saying, look, we'll take over now? You've proven yourself not to be worthy.
Listen, I'm going to move my car because I've got the sun right on it. I'm just going to shift it across the car park so I get a wee bit of shade here because this is driving me. That's one of the joys of live broadcasting from a car. Hopefully this will make a bit of a difference. Let's see. Oh, that's nicer. Right, I can.
Well, so there we are, Gordon. What do we do in the future? What's going to happen to SALVO? The next few months are going to be crucial. Will they start still when you've got no one to accuse for your own faults? So maybe JPTI are out of the question. You've nowhere to hide now, SALVO. You've nowhere to go.
I think Mr. Azizov's comments are actually quite correct. That there is a lack of professionalism within the organisations campaigning for independence, and that's basically one of the reasons why this has happened. Is that lack of coordination, that lack of professional structure, has led to somebody saying something which they shouldn't have, which has completely torpedoed the entire momentum of trying to do. Now, if it's deliberate, then that's different. But if it's accidental, that's almost even worse. You know, the fact that it's so badly coordinated that something like this could even happen, you know, begs the question, who's running the organisations?
But Gordon, we're not talking about the whole independence campaign. We're only talking about a specific section. And that specific section said to us, and I've had Sarah on my show at Caledon, and I've done other things. I've interviewed them all, and I've anchored a show on a podcast. I've been there, I've seen it, I've been up, I've given them a lot of my time, and I've supported decolonization for Scotland. But we're at this point now where we're looking at just the one part of this independence fight, and that's SALVO. What is happening? Because they're unique, and they say they're going out with the political party system. They're going as people to the UN. So they're taking us with them, or they want to take us with them.
Yeah.
When we challenge that and say, well, what's happening? What is happening? Who are you going to blame if something goes, Q-Swift in the future? What are you going to do? Who are you going to blame? Because you haven't got JPTI anymore. Who are you going to blame? Because
Well,
that's what it seems to me. It's just a blame game, Gordon, right now. And you better be careful. Anyone, all these actors within Salvo and Liberation, be very careful, because you will only get one more chance at this if you ever do. You cannot take the people's trust for granted. That's all I'm saying. Be careful.
this has certainly damaged people's trust in Salvo and Liberation Scotland, and it needn't have happened. Because if this is what I think it is, which is just basically stupidity, that makes it worse, because it means that we know these organisations are not being led properly. There's nobody coordinating properly. There's no structure of who does which job, who puts out press releases, who vets the press releases, how are they discussed, how are they agreed. None of that seems to have happened in this case, and therefore we are where we are.
And the other thing, Gordon, you've got to be careful about is JPTI have said nothing since they put out the statement.
No.
Salvo put out something, and they've been putting stuff all over Twitter X, which is there. It's in the domain. Wait to see what JPTI come out with next, and it could be damning. It could be damning. We don't know. And, in diplomacy, Gordon, you don't make enemies. Craig Murray, you're supposed to be a diplomat.
The last thing you want to do is pick a fight with an international law firm, because that's their area of expertise.
Correct.
International cases, and if you start making allegations about them, they're going to come out fighting, and they know how. So it's a disaster.
It's a disaster. Gordon, what we can do is JPTI are out the question. Salvo and the question of decolonisation is still there. We want that to continue, but we want more transparency, don't we? We want to know what's happening, because we've got a vested interest in this. We don't have a vote, because that's not the way it works, but we need transparency if you're wanting to win our trust. That's all we're saying.
The other thing that struck me, Nori, especially given what Mr. Azizov said in his reply, that there needs to be a stronger support for the people who are supposedly fighting their corner in the UN. In other words, there needs to be mass public support. Salvo and Liberation Scotland need to demonstrate that a majority of the Scottish people are behind their efforts. And so far, that has not been happening. And this has probably set that back a long way, this whole event.
I did ask Gordon. I did ask what would be the policy to get the people of Scotland behind this, and I suggested maybe this group that I was speaking to should all appear at a big rally in Glasgow or Edinburgh and speak to the people with passion and enthusiasm. And what we were wanting most out of this, Gordon, was the world to know Scotland's position. JPTI done that.
Yeah,
they've taken it to the world. For that, we've got to be grateful. And for my part, I don't like bad-mouthing people who have done Scotland a wee favour. Yes, I understand they get paid for what they do. They're not a charity. They have to get paid, or else they can't survive as an NGO. So all this stuff about the money, and they wanted more money up front and all the rest of it, and they wanted to take us down a devolutionist route. Absolute hogwash, absolute guff. It doesn't stack up. So stop your nonsense, Salvo. Get your shit together and make sure we've got a good case to take to the UN. How you're going to do that without an NGO now is anyone's guess. And we'll wait and we will see.
The other thing, Nori, I think, I agree with what you said there, by the way, but something that just occurred to me is the problem within Salvo. I mean, Salvo originally formed as a research organisation, and they did the background constitutional research to find that we were a colony and to be able to prove it. And then JPTI was hired to make that case at the UN professionally as our legal representation. They've done that. All of that succeeded. But what's left now is Salvo as a research organisation no longer seems to have much of a role. People like Sarah Salyers and Alf Baird have largely been sidelined, and whoever is now doing things and making public pronouncements in the background seem to be harming the cause. And I kind of feel sorry for Sarah and Alf because they did the donkey work, bringing that,
Yes.
and now it's crumbling because of the way it's been mishandled. That's the way it seems to me, anyway. And
It's a fair assessment, Gordon. You can see last month where they were, Aziz was over at the UN with Craig Murray and with Alf Baird.
yeah,
They were all together and they were doing good work, getting through to the UN, and etc., etc. And they even put out a statement on their website. This is what you do, Gordon. If JPTI can put stuff up with their website about what's happening, it's easy. You just click on it and go to the links, and there you are. It's all about Scotland, complex UN mechanisms, and contribute effectively to global discussions on decolonisation and human rights. A detailed account of this mission is available on JPT's report on Scottish participation. So you can click a link. That's what liberation or salvo, whatever you're going to call yourself. Get a website so that people can click on and understand where you are in this thing and not let us have second guesses and trust you. It doesn't work, Gordon. Not in this digital age of information and technology. Get with it, for goodness sake.
I think you're right, Nori. The people with talent within Salvo, and the other people I really know well in Salvo are Sarah and Alf. But looking at them as individuals, they did their job. They did the thing that they
Are good at.
succeeded in that. But they now seem to have been sidelined away. And whatever's happening within Salvo Liberation Scotland now is a mystery. It's a complete fog. Nobody knows what's happening. And as you say, their website is not refreshed. Nobody's managing their website. What organisation of any kind does not manage its news website? Nobody.
That's exactly it, Gordon. And the other thing you've got to remember is when GPTI put out this statement against Salvo, it was very measured, it was very easily readable.
Yeah.
Salvo, when they put stuff out, gobbledygook, attacking them, fragmented. It wasn't a good riposte at all. And I'm reading this and I can't make head nor tail of it. And that's what got me looking at both sides. And I thought, there's something doesn't add up.
The thing is, Nori, that up until that point, JPTI and Salvo Liberation Scotland had a non-disclosure agreement that no matter what happened after they parted ways, they wouldn't talk publicly about it.
Oh, that's the other one. That's the other red herring that's coming out. Yeah,
that's what's been said. That there is, or there was, a non-disclosure agreement between the two parties that they wouldn't discuss it after they ended their contract. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it wouldn't be unusual in a contract like that to have an NDA, sorry. But at the same time, they both broke it. You know, both sides have made comment publicly breaking that non-disclosure agreement.
The thing about that is that point you make is when things terminate, that's a contract ripped up.
Just over.
Now you can say what you want. There's no memorandum. You're not working together. You can come out and say what you want. And it was, I tell you what, GPTI saw the cards on the table, right, that's us out. This is what we're going to say. The people of Scotland need an answer. And they've given it. And it was only because of that that Salvo put out a rushed statement that didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense.
It's a bit vague, I agree. I've read it through a couple of times.
So have I.
There was some unspecified allegations made against JPTI that they had somehow broken some contractual rule or something. I didn't get it either, Nori. It was a bit vague.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if the contract's over, they shouldn't have been so coy about what they were saying, because the non-disclosure agreement would no longer apply, especially if one they had already broken it. So correct. I don't know.
But here's the thing, Gordon. We're looking into the future now, and all eyes will be on Salvo. We'll call them that. You better get back to that exciting, prosperous argument that Scotland is a colony because it was taking the people with you. You've got to get rid of the bad actors and get back to campaigning at what you're good for. If you think and you are honest that you cannot take this case any further, move over. Let other people come in. That's what's got to happen. Scotland is not a bargaining chip that I'll do it. I want to do it. No, it's much, much more than that.
Yeah, I agree.
And we respect the work you've done, everybody. Sarah, Alf, everybody. But we're at a crossroads here, and somebody else has to come up, step up, or a new group's got to come up and take the plate and move forward. Or else.
I think we can safely say this is one chapter of Scottish constitutional history that is now over. The question is what comes next. What comes next needs to be new, I think. I don't think it can be the same old, because we've seen how far it can go and at what point it started to fragment. So now that we've seen we need a better structure, I think that's the most obvious takeaway from this, is that whatever organisation succeeds them needs to be properly constituted with office bearers, with people responsible for public relations, with discussions on news releases and all the rest of that, what any organisation should have, and a website which is maintained and regularly refreshed with news stories and with replies to whatever issues have cropped up along the way. Because a dead website is a shop window into the past. It's not really telling you anything. You know what I mean? It's just something to look at that looks pretty, but it doesn't convey any information. That's a bit sad.
Yeah, well,
just aren't people with the to do it.
You're right, Gordon. Sometimes we need good news because, we always say Scotland's on antidepressants. We're all like trying to figure out how to survive into next week. We need good news sometimes. We don't need this more fracturing and this more anguish put on us. We need good news. And to get rid of JPTI, by the way, Gordon, couldn't Liberation and JPTI come to an agreement saying, look, we'll put stuff out on our webpage, and if you make a link, we can put it to your webpage. There was none of that. No. It's so amateurish from this side, the Salvo side.
And that's really what JPTI was saying in its statement, that the Scottish, the Liberation Scotland side was amateurish. It wasn't properly organised. It didn't have enough public support. It went so far, got to the UN, saw how Scotland could take its case forward, because JPTI showed them how other, like French Polynesia, were doing it. And that was what that was about. It wasn't about Scotland just going there and making its case. It was going there to see how somebody else made the case, and also to intimate that we were going to make a submission.
Yes, it's a precedent.
But that's where it left off. Now what's going to happen is that submission to the C24 Commission has to happen. That committee has to get those details now. Somehow. The question is who is going to put it together.
Do you know what, Gordon? You're right. It's tricky. It's a minefield, the UN. I was watching British Virgin Isles, their application for decolonisation, and it's all about the same rhetoric about that they've got that Scotland has. It was, you could have swapped the word Scotland for British Virgin Isles. It was the same. And they were given 3 minutes for the petitioners, those that are seconding the petitioners, 3 minutes to put their case to back the decolonisation process. And after 3 minutes, your mic would be cut off. So it's those wee things that you have to get your message in 3 minutes that's succinct and direct, and all the salient points are being made. These are the wee nuances about the UN that we don't know about. But I tell you what, JPTI do. They know it because they've done the work before.
Of course, that's their job. That's what they specialise in.
Yeah, it's a job, My goodness.
They are human rights advocates. That's their job.
Yeah. Other news, Gordon. Is there any other news? The big thing I think is Keir Starmer is under a lot of pressure. I don't know if you saw yesterday. He was getting challenged about what the members in his party, his cabinet, were doing, and he came out with a statement saying it's ungracious that you can verbally assault my cabinet and what they're doing. He's trying to create this, you cannot talk about us and what we do. It's not the done thing. He's trying to create rules for himself. And he's now minus 50 in the popularity charts. That's lower than Tony Blair and Thatcher in her down days. He is the worst prime minister in living history.
It's interesting because I was listening to Richard Murphy's podcast this morning. He was talking about
Yeah,
is it Rachel Reeves, who's currently the Chancellor, having to
yeah.
come up with a budget when she's in a government which is falling apart, where they're scheming to unseat the leader in the
I
background.
know.
And Starmer actually just doesn't seem to know what to say or do anymore.
Yeah.
He's girdling around. So, I mean, I don't know how long this Labour government will last,
Not
frankly.
long.
The way it is, it looks
But
like
what he
it's.
said, Gordon, was if you take me out as a leader, I'm calling a general election. Now that should get all our ears on edge about what might happen, because politics is collapsing in front of us. The capitalist system that he is being controlled by is a straw for too many camels' backs. And now the people of England are up against them because their water's stinking. They can't go out and protest, but they're thrown in jails. It's because of them. They've got no waspy women remediation. The cold winter allowance is gone. Bloody blah. I could go on and on and on.
Do you know, the other thing I noted in the news recently was that the poor people of Wales have now been told that they're going to get, I think it's 3 nuclear reactors built on Anglesey, a lovely island off the Welsh coast. They're going to build 3. They say they're small nuclear generators, but these things are actually quite big. Do they need it? I mean, they're talking about something like 150,000 homes it's supposed to supply. Now, who's going to be next? I mean, Wales got this dumped on them just recently without any warning. I don't think anyone in Wales voted for this.
No.
Who's next? Are we going to be lumped with more nuclear reactors up here, or are they just going to keep stealing the wind energy instead?
Well, Gordon, I was speaking to a Welsh journalist on this one, and he says you cannot look just like what's happening in Scotland, because we're talking about the wind farms all over the place. He says, "Isn't it amazing, Norrie, that they're putting these nuclear installations in Anglesey, a place of beauty and natural, nature's at its best there. It's a place where the French go and relax. They're putting them there." What on earth? Why would they put them there? Why couldn't they put them somewhere that's a bit in a building site somewhere, or an industrial unit, a disused one? Why Anglesey? And I said to him, "Do you know what? They're putting bloody wind farms on the hills of Scotland." He goes, "My God!" He says, "What's it? Why?" And we came to this conclusion that the people are sitting in their seats, comatose, while this all happens. We're not doing anything. We're watching our telly and waiting for things to happen. But things are happening at a rate of knots. 2025 will soon be over, Gordon. And what have we achieved this year? Nothing. We're getting still, inflation's going through the roof. Still, the cost of living's getting tougher and tougher for people. The cold weather payments are killing people. What have we done as people?
No, the United Kingdom has the highest inflation rate in the Western world. It's far higher than any other country, including America, including Europe. Now, why is our inflation so high and nobody else's?
I just told you.
It's the banks. It's to do with banks.
Yes, but the people have got to get off their seats and get off their phones and get off their PCs and go into their own communities. Here's the thing, Gordon. See, if we all stopped paying our mortgage, the banks would collapse because they need that interest on our payments to keep them afloat. If we said, no, this is a step too far, and we collectively came together, that's the bit. We cannot come together. Do you know why, Gordon? Because there's Celtic Rangers, there's waspy women against everybody else, there's men against women, there's trans against women. There's all these fights going on that are created so that we are distracted.
Oh yeah.
And the sooner we learn that, and we've got more in common than we don't. The
It's a process.
person down the street is suffering the same as we are, Gordon.
Yeah, it's a process called depoliticization. It's a recognized way of controlling people, where they get them so confused with so many other issues and so many other little battles going on and people turning against one another. They're not really watching what the politicians are doing anymore, and they're no longer worrying about how the country is being run. They just see these local issues. They don't see anything else.
Yeah.
So that depoliticization as a means of control, I mean, it's used in all kinds of different regimes, including in Russia. People in Russia are largely apathetic, but when they do get angry about something, they're too frightened to say anything. When we don't even get off our seats, we're so bloody apathetic.
Gordon, I know. Can I just draw your attention to something that's just come in? I don't know if you can read it, but I can. Lee Doubles was saying, I've noticed a recurring pattern in your comments regarding Liberation Salvo that seems consistently critical. We've every right to be critical after the events. We've just told you that. Your feedback often appears to make assumptions without sufficient supporting evidence. My God, Gordon, we're looking for the evidence. We're asking for the evidence. Can you not see that?
Yeah.
Lee, wake up, please. Come
The
on.
thing is, you can only criticize people because they're not doing something, not because they do something. I mean, if they were providing the answers and the evidence that this person is asking for us to produce, we would produce it. And let's face it, you and I, for years, have been supporting Salvo and Liberation Scotland, waving the flag for them, cheerleading for them. We've never had to complain about them before now.
Exactly, Gordon.
Reason to complain. Now there is a reason, because there's a mess, there's a stramash, a guddle, you know.
Aye, a stramash, an absolute burach. Sort it out, and don't come on saying that we're not allowed to be critical. We're looking for the evidence.
If the evidence,
looking for the evidence.
if the reason things were happening was clear, then you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. We wouldn't need to, because evidence would be there. There isn't any. There's no evidence. There's chit chat. There's little bits of hearsay, and there's he said, she said, allegations and counter allegations. Nobody knows the truth. If we knew the truth, this would be simple to resolve.
It would be. Gordon, let's get off this because I think we've given it enough time. Getting back to what's happening in Westminster, this is a really important statement that Keir Starmer is coming out with. I'm going to go back to that because even the Tories and Reform are getting their, and it's in the Independent and the Guardian's pages, they're getting ready on red alert for an election. Now, if that was to happen, what would Scotland do?
Well, what would Scotland do? It would just do what it always does and vote SNP, because there isn't any other choice other than the Tories, the Liberal Democrats, Labour Party. Who's going to vote for them? I mean, they'll all be the same people who do vote for them anyway, but the rest of us aren't. So nothing will change. And that's what depoliticization is all about. It's about stability, it's about inertia, it's about things not changing, not for the better. Nothing must change. Everything must stay in place. Everybody must stay in their power positions, and the rest of us just lump it.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? If there is an election, what plans do the political parties have? Do they have the cash to go for another election?
Very good question. Nobody seems to know that. I know that Alba itself hasn't got the same resources, obviously, as somebody like the SNP. The SNP resources from memberships are about 50% what they used to be. So they can campaign, but they're not as strong as they once were.
No.
Who knows? The BBC, of course, is jumping up and down with joy, salivating the idea of Nigel Farage might be the next Prime Minister. They've been championing him for about the last 20 years.
I know.
For that single man has had more airtime from the BBC than just about any other politician in living memory. Somebody is putting him.
Yeah, the thing is, Gordon, and the worrying thing for Scotland is that Reform are getting loads and loads of money. This guy Rice is a multi-millionaire. So is Farage.
Yeah.
These people have made their millions. They can take this on. Another thing is, I've been speaking to somebody over in California about Trump and the Epstein files.
Yeah.
I think if Trump falls, the Jimmy Savile, the Prince Andrew stuff is going to land at Keir Starmer's door, and he's wanting out. And that's when we'll see a house of cards falling.
And I think you have to that Starmer was the Attorney General at the time when a lot of these paedophilia cases were being looked at by the high courts in England.
Yeah, he was the prosecution Department of Prosecution. He was head of that.
That's right.
Yeah, but you're right, Gordon. He oversaw that, and he waved it bye.
Yep.
And this is,
you know
what? Well, Epstein, the papers got Trump's in trouble politically. That might rebound on Starmer and Prince Andrew, and before you know it, Gordon, we've got an election.
Well, let's see what happens now. I mean, you never know. A week is a long time in politics, as they say.
You're right, Gordon.
I don't think Starmer's going to last, and I don't think any other commentators reckon that he's going to last. He's struggling. He's the least popular prime minister in history, I think, now.
Yes.
And he just seems to just witter on, and nobody listens to him. I mean, he could put you to sleep just by talking to you.
Yeah.
He's that interesting. So, yeah, I mean, Farage is going to be a disaster, but at least you know what you're getting with Farage. You know, he's never hidden what he is. Starmer, I don't like. I think he's a bit sleek, and he's far too far right to be a Labour leader.
Yes, of course he is. But you said something before, Gordon, about in the crowd of political parties, Reform stand out as being the visible ones with a message. The problem we've all got is they've only got one message, and it's about immigration. And once when they're in power, and this is where I see it's really important that Scotland gets out of this. When Reform get into power, after that one policy has been used up, they've still got a lot of areas to cover, which they have got no experience in.
Of course not.
And of course, then it'll collapse again. And then, where are we?
We're wallowing in mediocrity and failure is where we're at. The trouble is our political classes don't have any talent, and nobody has a vision of what the country should look like in the future. They just think, well, we'll just keep it limping along a bit longer and hope it all goes away.
Yeah, you're right, Gordon. And the thing is, as we do it, we'll be paid and remunerated and dealt with pretty well if we conform to this system. And then they conform and nothing changes and a few people get the benefit of it while the millions of us are still in abject poverty.
We will all pay for Farage eventually. If he gets into power, we will be worse off, and he and his millionaire buddies will be better off, because that's the way the system is geared. It's always been geared that way. He doesn't want to change it. He wants to keep his apparatus of power intact, and he wants to increase his wealth. You only have to look at the way Trump operates. I mean, for Christ's sake, he's trying to sue the BBC for $1 billion for splicing clips together. I don't think he'll get $1 billion, but the BBC will settle. They'll pay him several tens of millions to shut him up. That's how Trump became so rich. He sues people.
He's playing the system. You're right. Well, Gordon, we're at the end of our time. Just to say that we're not against decolonisation and the fight to take this to the UN. We're just analysing what's happening now.
We're not anti-SALVO Liberation Scotland either. We're just incredibly disappointed at what's happened within those two organisations and how this has all seemed to have come apart. It's incredibly disappointing. And I'm shocked. I have to say, I was really shocked when this happened. I couldn't quite believe this.
Me too. Yeah. I can. This is some left fields. We were all expecting this to chug along quite nicely. We're doing things, and we were. And in 2 weeks, 2 weeks of madness, something happened. No, Smells something fishy going on. But, Gordon, the few weeks and months ahead to the end of the year, and after that, we'll be looking at Salvo. We'll be looking at them. What are you doing? Was it a mistake to get rid of JPTI? Only in the future we will know. And at that point, we've got to ask more questions. What really happened? And we have to wait for JPTI to come out with any more statements that they feel they need to come out with.
I don't think they'll make any further statements. I think they've said the piece, and I think that's a permanent separation now between Salvo Liberation Scotland and JPTI, because they've had their spat. It's over with. The contract would have ended anyway at the end of this month. So either way,
but Gordon, reputation counts a lot in these fields. If you've got somebody's trying to damage your reputation, that company will stand back and fight back. That's what I'm worried about for Salvo. Well, Gordon, the sun's in your eyes and you're struggling. So you should get to a garage somewhere like I used to do and just park there.
It's just getting the good signal, that's the problem. But anyway, we've run out of time, I'm afraid, but it's been a real roller coaster show today. But we've exhausted everything that we know about this topic. And I'm sure people have a lot of comments to make for the next programme.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll get it in the neck, Gordon, but I'm prepared for it. If you're seeking the truth, you've got to be willing to get there ahead of other people, and while they're trying to get to you, they'll attack you. That's the nature of life itself.
Anyway, that's it from us today, everybody. We'll see you all again next week at 9:30 on Friday. In the meantime, keep the faith, as I always say, and another show of Hood Magic next Friday, Norrie.
Aye, let's go, Gordon. All the best. Have a great weekend, mate, and to everybody out there, relax and try and figure out what we're trying to say. It's not against anyone. It's just trying to promote something. That's what we're trying to do here. And if you like it, press the button, Gordon. It's the subscribe and all those daft things.
Like, comment.
You got it. Right, I'm out of here. I'm going to get something to eat. I'm hungry. I'm away.
See you next week, mate. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later, Gordon. All the best. Bye now.
Bye.